All right, instant reaction time. We're back at this for another round. Ravens 28, Steelers 14. Final few seconds of that game. They're happy in Baltimore. And, I think the Ravens, they're making a case. They're making a strong case that they're the best team in the National Football League. Take a look at this. These are the NFL team tiers. And this is the entire season. So I know that we look for upper right is what we want. We want further to the right, further up. This is for the entire season where the Ravens, yes, they made a strong case. They were the best team over 18 games or 17 games, 18 weeks. Best offense, and the defense was above average. So these diagonal lines are the team tier lines, and the Ravens were right there with the Buffalo Bills. But consider the fact that the Ravens have had to break in a new defensive coordinator this year, and after Mike McDonald left to be the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. So it might have just taken some time, but look at their splits since week 11. Here's the entire season, and now this is week 11 to 18. Look where the Ravens dot moves to the very upper right. So a defense that had been middling, a little bit above average over the first 2+ months of the season. Over the past 2 months, ever since mid-November, the Baltimore Ravens have fielded the best defense in the league. I know today they got beaten a few times by Russell Wilson deep passes, but that was after they had built a massive lead in this game. And I don't think anybody is going to be arguing about the legitimacy of the Baltimore Ravens offense. In fact, there seems to be a running back revolution right now in the National Football League, where running backs are becoming important again. I think they always were important, except in the collective psyche, maybe because we had some teams, maybe like the 49ers, who would have lower ranked guys as far as draft positioning went, would have big games. There was just this thought that you could pump in any running back into some of these systems and the results would be good statistically. Well, real football isn't fantasy football, and the impact of a true star running back is truly being felt around the league right now. In the case of this game today, the Steelers are allowed 227 yards after contact. So the Ravens were able to pick up 227 yards after contact, which was the most out of any game this season. And most of that was Derrick Henry rumbling to pay dirt on the touchdown that essentially sealed the game in the second half, but rumbling over defenders multiple times. If you look at what Henry is doing at age 31, at what Saquon Barkley is doing with Philadelphia, at how important Christian McCaffrey has been to the 49ers. I mean, we saw that in a positive way over 2022 and 2023. In a negative way this season, we saw how much San Francisco suffered without Christian McCaffrey in the lineup. The age of the star running back is firmly here. It is no longer, and it never was, but it especially is no longer a league right now of you can plug and play anybody in that running back position and expect to be a top-tier football team. And the Ravens have a top guy, obviously, in Derrick Henry, even at age 31. The first half that Baltimore put together today was astounding. Henry finished with 26 carries for 186 yards. So that's 7.2 per carry. In the first half alone, Derrick Henry had 100 of those yards, 13 carries for 100 yards, nearly 8 yards a rush. Lamar Jackson had 64 rushing yards in the first half. The Ravens had a drive today in the first half where they ran the ball 13 straight times, basically either Henry or Jackson, and they scored a touchdown against the Steelers. Now, this was a Steelers team. They're known as a hard-nosed football team under Mike Tomlin. They've scored well defensively. They got as far as they did this year, despite the fact that they got subpar quarterback play. Russell Wilson, despite making an improvement over Justin Fields, ranked number 22 in QBR. It was too little, too late for him this year. So the Steelers got to where they are based on their defense and their special teams. But until they find a way to play more explosive offense from the get-go, not just when they're down 3 or 4 scores, they're not going to take the next step. And the last time Mike Tomlin won a playoff game was in January of 2017. Since then, 28 head coaches have won at least one playoff game. So the entire league has passed Mike Tomlin by as far as being able to win and actually move a needle, not just go 9-7 or 10-7 and make it through to the wild card round and bow out. He hadn't won a playoff game since 2017. That's before Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch were hired with the 49ers. They have coached and GM'd the 49ers for 8 seasons, and Mike Tomlin has not won a playoff game in that time. So, I mean, it just goes to show you that you have to have the quarterback, you have to have the offense, you have to have the structure of the offense, and I think you look at the Ravens, you have to have the running back too to be a true bona fide Super Bowl contender. You've got to have good, versatile talent at that running back position, and this is a versatile team. I mean, Lamar Jackson can obviously do it all for the Ravens, but the way that they're attacking teams on the ground is absolutely emblematic of this running back revolution that we're seeing in football. We saw the league downsize, get lighter over the years, and one team that never really bought into that, never really just said, okay, fine, we're going to run the spread offense because everybody else is doing it. The Ravens, along with the 49ers under Shanahan, I'll have to say, since 2017, have decided to just run the football. And the Ravens, it's easy to see why they want to run the football. Their quarterback is such a good runner in Lamar Jackson. So you could base what you're doing offensively around his legs. They've now doubled down on things. They've moved from the likes of J.K. Dobbins to the likes of Derrick Henry. But even in the era of downsizing defenses, the Ravens have consistently pounded the rock. And this season, they probably have the best personnel that they've had over their entire time there to run the football. The defense took a little step back to begin the season under Zach Orr, the new defensive coordinator, with Mike McDonald gone, but I think that it's now hit its stride. And when you combine Baltimore, who's been on the cutting edge of running the ball for so long, but now is doing it at an even higher level with Baltimore's defense, well, this is a team that could really, really make some noise. You know, we could take a look at the playoff bracket here. Let's see what's happening on the other side tomorrow, and let's see what's going to be happening moving forward in the AFC. Here's the playoff bracket. The Texans beat the Chargers a little bit earlier today. Now they're going to reseed this, and they can't reseed it in AFC until the final AFC game of the weekend has been played. That's Denver and Buffalo tomorrow. So you see the 3 seed advance and you see the 4 seed advance. Higher seeds advance in both cases on these Saturday games. Kansas City is going to face the lowest surviving seed. So if Denver beats Buffalo, then it's Denver against Kansas City. However, if Buffalo, who is favored by 9 over Denver, wins tomorrow, then Kansas City faces the Houston Texans at Arrowhead. And that will, so favorites prevail, higher seeds prevail throughout this entire first round for the AFC, then you will see Kansas City and Houston and Baltimore hosting Denver. Buffalo hosting Baltimore. Misspoke there. Denver would be eliminated. So this is going to get interesting really, really quickly because as I just showed you with our team tier chart, since week 11, Baltimore has been the best team in NFL offensively and defensively. And over the course of the full sample of the regular season, Baltimore and Buffalo have been the very 2 best teams in the entire league, you can argue, with Detroit right there also with them. But I think that zooming in on this, the most recent 2 months and seeing where Baltimore has been eye-opening. And if favorites prevail, if we see Buffalo win tomorrow, we're going to see the Ravens go to the Bills immediately. And that makes the divisional round extremely interesting. That could be an AFC championship caliber matchup in the divisional round of the postseason. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to next week. I have to say, watching Pittsburgh today, I know Russell Wilson is no longer in his prime. I know that he struggles to escape from the pass rush the way that he used to, but it was so pronounced and so extreme today. this guy was only efficient on deep passes. There might have been one screen to Najee Harris that Russell Wilson threw today that was successful. But other than that, it was, yeah, he throws a really pretty deep ball. But this goes back to his time with Seattle, to a lesser extent, his time with Denver, because nothing was really efficient there. But Russell Wilson has always been a quarterback who can destroy you downfield, but will struggle with the bread and butter plays, will struggle with some of those intermediates, probably because he can't see over the line of scrimmage. But his elusiveness over the early part of his career made up for that. So he was able to get away, and then he threw deep. Now the elusiveness is no longer there, and the deep pass still is, but it leads to the boom or bust type of performance that we saw today. And Pittsburgh's offense just was not able to do anything in the first half when they needed to. When they were facing a Baltimore offense that was just shredding in the first half. Like I said, 164 rushing yards. Pittsburgh only had 19. Pittsburgh only had 40 yards passing in the first half. Baltimore, meanwhile, over 300 yards in the first half. So today, you saw one team that was playing in the 21st century, and you saw another team that the Steelers are playing like in the 80s or something. They're playing, it was some Air Coryell offense. They were going deep, but they couldn't do anything else. And the defense obviously just got trampled by the Baltimore Ravens. So we can see why Mike Tomlin has struggled to win a playoff game since January of 2017. Just wild that it's been that long. Yet they've still maintained at least mediocrity or some semblance of solid play. They just haven't been able to get past the juggernauts of the league, and the Ravens are one of the juggernauts of the league. So one of the Harbaughs wins today. We saw John Harbaugh win. Jim Harbaugh didn't. Justin Herbert, just a horrific performance. You could watch the other instant reaction video that I put up after that game, and we could see, I just talked about how bad Herbert was and how he's a social media darling, but he just isn't a great quarterback. He's above average. I would say today it looked absolutely atrocious, but the way I put it is that Brock Purdy takes a lot of flack for finishing number one in QBR last season and then never coming close to putting a game as bad as Justin Herbert put on tape today. What we saw from Herbert today with the 4 interceptions in the loss to the Houston Texans far, far exceeded the worst that we've seen from Brock Purdy, and it came in a playoff game. And the reason I just bring up that comparison is because people have decided that they wanted to crown Justin Herbert because of stuff like arm talent and draft positioning, and he was the rookie of the year in 2020. But honestly, what has he accomplished outside of that rookie of the year season besides ranking about 11th out of all quarterbacks in efficiency? So that was the story of the morning. The Texans advanced. C.J. Stroud, the 23-year-old quarterback, slightly bounced back from a bad regular season. His defense is what carried the way, but Stroud was definitely a whole lot better than Justin Herbert. And then we saw the Harbaugh brother win. Jim lost in the morning. John won in the evening. That brings us to the bracket moving forward. It should be a fun Sunday of playoff activity. We're going to get to see the Broncos. That's a rookie quarterback, and Bo Nix against Josh Allen. My Super Bowl pick is the Buffalo Bills. I've been picking Bills and Eagles to make it to the Super Bowl. I may shift my prediction based on what I see over the next couple days, but we'll see Buffalo against Sean Payton, Bo Nix, and the Broncos to begin. And then we're going to move on to the NFC half of the bracket. It's going to be Green Bay and Philadelphia. Philly's been playing really good football. If you want to talk about a team that's been extremely hot, Philadelphia Eagles and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, this is since week 11. Talking about how hot the Ravens have been. Look who else has been in that upper right. Tampa Bay, they have really surged. And so has Philadelphia. And for that matter, so has Denver. Denver, in a way, right here, that they're about even with Buffalo on the tier chart since week 11. So this should be good football tomorrow. I do think Buffalo's going to win. I think Philadelphia has the edge over Green Bay. I think they have a better defense than the Green Bay Packers, but we'll see what Jordan Love can put up on the other side. I like Tampa Bay over Washington. And then the game in Arizona, since it was moved away from the LA area due to the fires there, that's on Monday night. That's the Rams and the Vikings. Sam Darnold's going to be in action in the postseason. I probably give the edge to the Vikings, but they do have to travel away from Minnesota, although it's technically not a road game anymore. It's going to be a neutral site game in Arizona. Anyway, it's been a good first day of the postseason. We'll be with you after every single game tomorrow. That second one, I know wasn't all too exciting, but I think that the Ravens might be the best team in football. Maybe I was wrong about the Bills, but we'll see with the Bills tomorrow. I think it's going to be tightly clustered there at the top. The Ravens, the Bills, I like the Eagles. Obviously, the Chiefs can show that they're the number one seed that they kind of backed into. We'll be honest with the Kansas City Chiefs. They won a lot of one-score games. They weren't really dominant this year, but if they've been saving up for the playoffs, they can show it tomorrow, or they could show it next week because they have the bye week. They can show it in the divisional playoffs, and they do have that advantage. But I think that the Ravens are definitely in that elite tier that's going to be making this playoff competition really, really interesting. Everybody, thanks for watching. We will talk to you tomorrow.